Hi there, welcome to the Talent in Logistics Conference for 2020. Thank you so much for joining us. We weren't sure for a little while whether it was going to be able to happen or not, but thankfully we've embraced all that is digital and we've been able to go ahead. So yeah, hopefully today things all run nice and smoothly. I'm sure they will. Today's conference for me and hopefully for you is about a couple of things given what we've got lined up. It's going to be a really important day for personal development. We mustn't forget that personal development is important even when we're going through these most challenging of times, and it will also be a really useful tool with lots of insights that you can take back to your businesses as well, and hopefully improve things, improve your strategies and create a different culture when you return to the workplace tomorrow. I'd like to think that we've created some really good sessions for you, and that they should all provide the kind of necessary tools that you need to do both of those things, self-development and organisational development. Now, last night you should have received a conference brochure through email. It's a digital brochure, so nice and interactive. And just in case you didn't use it in this way for this session, you can actually go into that brochure and access the sessions by clicking on a button on the session page. It's also got a welcome video from me, a note from our sponsors, and runs you through all the session details. There's also a few resources at the back end that you can download that you might find useful that are from Talent in Logistics previous archives, so webinars, podcasts, some downloadable PDFs and resource sheets. I want to ask everybody today, if at all possible, to be interactive. It's a shame that we can't all see each other face to face, but I want to try and embrace the digital, as I say. So we've got a hashtag for today's event, which is TILConf2020, and we're going to be using that on LinkedIn, Facebook and Twitter ourselves today. Might take the odd screenshot of the presenters talking, so that we can kind of be digital and kind of share what's going on. I also want to ask everyone to interact as much as possible. So on your dashboard, you can ask questions, raise your hands and chat. I'll be managing that throughout the day while the speakers are cracking on doing what they do best. So I'll be quietly in the background looking at those questions and presenting them to the speakers at the end of their sessions. Before I move on and start to talk any more about the first session today, I just want to say thank you to our sponsor, System Group. They're who's going to be delivering this first session. Without their support, this event may not have been able to take place. Obviously, we're a very small not-for-profit organisation, so thank you so much, System Group. For those who don't know System Group, they're a transport and logistics training provider who've worked in the sector for 25 years, providing flexible training and skills development. They work with part-funded and fully funded adult education, apprenticeships and commercial training. And I'm just going to, this is my first bit of technology use, I'm going to share a video with you now that tells you a little bit more about them. Hopefully that's worked. I hope you've all been able to see that. If you haven't, let me know in the chat and I'll play it again. I'll play it again at the end. Right, so now I'm going to introduce to you Paul Hudson. So Paul is with us today to talk about the road to recovery. Paul's the CEO of System Group and was previously Managing Director of Apprenticeships, and he was responsible for establishing best practice learning programmes, which gives him a wealth of experience supporting the needs of the local economy and also maximising the chances of learners progressing into employment. Hi Paul, thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Hopefully you can see me now. Hopefully the technology is working.
Yeah, I think it has. How are things going at System?
Yeah, it's interesting times. I'm relatively new to the business, as I'll share in a moment. So the last few months have provided some unique challenges, like everybody else on the call today.
Okay, lovely. Yeah, look forward to hearing some more about it. Right, I won't take any more time. I'm going to duck out and let Paul crack on with the session. But just to quickly cover off some of the logistics, as I mentioned. So everyone that's listening, there is a dashboard which will allow you to chat and ask questions. You will remain on mute throughout the session, and then I will coordinate the questions at the end of the session and ask them to Paul. So fingers crossed, I'm going to make Paul the presenter, and he will be able to share his screen with you.
Well, that's the theory anyway, isn't it?
That's the theory, any second now.
Hi there. Right, let me try and... Hopefully you can all see the screen. So look, good morning to all of you. I hope you all are keeping safe along with your families. How the world has changed over the 191 days since the 16th of March. We usually only talk about in terms of days till Christmas. By the way, it is 93. But 191 days, the world has changed for all of us, not just at a practical level, but also from a work perspective as well. Yesterday felt like the end of summer, the last 20-degree day, I think, of the summer, whereas looking out the window this morning feels rather autumnal. Yesterday almost felt like end of lockdown part 1, whereas today is autumn and lockdown the sequel. So let's see how we get on. This is my first time presenting to a virtual conference. It is an exciting proposition. One of the great things about those opportunities, you can talk to people, you have the opportunity to connect with people, whereas in this way makes it a little bit more difficult, but hopefully I can share some interesting thoughts around supporting the road to recovery. And I guess if it's good enough for Sir Keir Starmer, it's good enough for me, so I'll give it a good go. And just sort of reviewing as the session or preparing for the session, it was great to see that one of the key missions of the group is to overcome people and skills challenges by working together as a community, and for the talent and logistics community, it's never been more important. So hopefully I can share some interesting thoughts. In terms of about System Group, and just to build on the video you've just seen, we are a business that have operated in this sector for 25 years, and we are in the world of learning. Prior to that, just thank you to Ruth and the team for inviting us to address you all this morning and share some of our experiences and our thoughts. And as I suggested, I've been with the business only since June, so at a personal level I understand some of the lockdown challenges around engaging with our business in terms of understanding the culture of the business and looking to sort of develop the skills of the people within the business and navigating, which is a very dynamic and difficult market to operate in. So as I said, we've had 25 years plus of operating within the logistics and transport sectors. We are experts in both funded learning, which includes apprenticeships and pre-employment, and we support clients navigating their way through the world of government funded learning, because we do understand what a difficult market that is to navigate. But also we deliver some commercial programs in partnership with our clients, and we've had to adapt over the past few months. You know, the world is changing, we have to change, and we have to change and adapt to support the skills agenda over the coming months. And those are some of the key themes that we're looking to address. The theme of today, or the theme of the session, is supporting the road to recovery. Now, that might be slightly premature, as Boris shared with us last night. There's going to be another 6 months at least of this, but I do hope some of the themes resonate with you, and you can there are some takeaways for you. In terms of my background, you know, why have I got interest in this sector? As I said, I joined the business just 3 months ago. I'm new to the logistics and transport sector, but not new to the skills sector. And my observations are based on a fresh pair of eyes looking into this sector. My experiences in both operational and significant HR roles, primarily in the hospitality sector up until 6 years ago, when I've then worked within this skills area with a couple of providers, with Capita and Lifetime Training, where I was able to work with clients to develop scalable solutions for what required complex people solutions. So my experience, like you, I've spent 20 years plus client side, and my first connection with the world of skills and apprenticeships was from a client's perspective. So I do empathize with your challenges, I do understand your challenges. And working within the skills sector, I've worked with sectors which have similar challenges to the sector in which we operate now, retail and care, to name but two, where sectors with high attrition, significant change agenda, and significant skills shortages. So I have an understanding of skills, I have an understanding of what can work, and at the other end I've actually delivered some of those solutions myself. As I said, just been with the business just a few months, and I do hope some of my observations will add value to your thinking and support innovation and creativity in this sector around people, because without doubt this is a sector in fast forward, and the challenges are in sharp focus. And with the announcements of yesterday, I'm absolutely sure we're going to have to continue to innovate in the way that we deliver skills within the sector. And COVID has undoubtedly delivered a rapid transformation of the learning and training delivery ecosystem. But the people challenges still remain. There are still significant skills shortages within the sector, and we're going to have to continue to collaborate as a whole to drive engagement with skills within the sector. But this is a sector that has kept the economy moving over the past 6 months, and I'm sure will continue to do so. And I'm sure that that will continue. And as a group, what we have to do is try and anticipate what's coming next, and particularly from a skills perspective, what are the key themes and trends within the sector. I would sort of focus on sort of 3 key eras: the pre, during, and whilst I've called it recovery, may have changed that overnight to next phase, but certainly coming out of that. My observations about the pre-COVID marketplace is that this was a sector like many others that faces key operational challenges, but really mixed engagement with the skills agenda, which is not dissimilar to other sectors. But my observation would be this sector has been slightly slower for a whole variety of reasons to really engage with the sort of the skills agenda, the world of apprenticeship. So maybe that's an opportunity and something we can explore throughout the rest of the session. Brexit was clearly going to have an impact and will have an impact, whatever that looks like. Just 3 months away now, we're still not entirely sure, but I'm sure all of you and all of your organisations are planning for the potential implications. Digitisation is a theme that we will, and I know is being explored through the rest of the session today. And but once again, this is a fairly traditional sector and hasn't particularly embraced in some areas, not all, the sort of digitisation agenda. But that's something we've got to consider moving forward. And from a skills delivery perspective, it's often been delivered in a product-led engagement with a client rather than a solution-led engagement. I think that will naturally change. The world of levy and apprenticeship levy, the world of standards created some change within the marketplace, but that has been slow to flow through to scalable solutions within the sector. The skills agenda and the skills market is very complex and requires quite a lot of navigation. What we've seen during COVID is the halting of all non-essential face-to-face delivery. That has slowed down the skills agenda, but there has been a rapid conversion to virtual learning. I was talking to a number of our delivery team just last week, just about the experiences that they're having in terms of delivering to learners. And undoubtedly, they, like many others, have struggled with that rapid transformation. And I would say that the sector, the skills sector particularly, has fast forwarded 10 years. There was still a paradigm that people needed to deliver face-to-face. And of course, the optimum methodology of delivery is around blended learning. But, with all parts of the economy having to adapt, and virtual learning is is a reality, and we're going to have to continue to adapt that. The availability of learners has really been impacted during this period of time. Breaks in learning for some apprenticeships has become a norm, but that has started to slowly unwind as people come back to business. But in the end, this is a sector that has constant peaks. We've seen a peak over the last 6 months. We'll come out to the key trading period of Christmas, and so therefore availability of learners is always at a premium. So looking at new innovative ways of connecting with learners as part of their daily routines will become increasingly important. And the skills market undoubtedly has been under pressure. Businesses like ours have been impacted across this sector and many others through breaks in learning and the fact that all organisations are having to adapt to the reality of what COVID has presented us. So looking forward in terms of the recovery, I think there will need to be a kind of transformation in the way that learning is delivered. This is a sector that requires significant upskill, significant input into driving the skills agenda. There will be, as was before, the long-term impact of the virtual workforce. That has an impact on the way we all think about how we connect with other people within our organisations. And in addition, people making sure that we keep people connected and engaged around sort of the key norms within the business. This is a sector that will continue to see accelerated progress towards automation, and as in terms of increased efficiency within the all businesses will mean that the skills agenda has never been more important. And the workforce will continue to grow, and therefore that workforce will need to continue to evolve. But what is without doubt is that this sector, like never before, requires a more highly skilled workforce, and everybody on this call has a key role to play in that. So in terms of the recovery, and as a business and as a sector, we are in listening mode. The skills sector has traditionally been product-led, and businesses like ours would have engaged with clients like yourselves with a range of products. However, we have recognised that that traditional way of operating will will not succeed at the future. So what I'm looking to do here is just share with you some of the things that we're hearing, some of the things, and play back some of the key learnings for other organisations within the sector. And what has, is coming loud and clear to us as an organisation is that learning in logistics will not revert to the pre-COVID norm. There is probably no surprise there, but that we're hearing loud and clear from all of our clients, and every one of you and every one of the businesses that we connect with is looking for different ways of addressing the skills shortages. The business is undergoing significant change, and it's happening fast. It's almost like the fast forward button has been pressed, and organisations with often with people who have been furloughed, looking to adapt and cope with the changes that are coming. And logistics and transport is a sector that requires significant resilience, not just to cope with what is happening now, but also what is to come. And I know that's a key theme of one of the sessions later on in the day, and something I'm particularly interested in is how you build sort of that resilience within organisations to cope with all of this change that's thrown at us. When I started work back in the 90s, there was a concept of a change curve, which is almost a process people went through. I think most organisations go through that process on a daily basis rather than on an annual basis now. With organisations having to adapt to government announcements, to regulatory announcements, to the changing face of the economy. So organisational resilience is a concept I'm really interested in, and something we're hearing a lot from many of our clients. A number of you are saying that you need help in terms of navigating the funded learning landscape. And without doubt, it's complex. I've worked in this sector for 6 years, and terminology like AB, Kickstart, sector-based work academies can be confusing. So therefore, it is important that organisations like ours and other training providers within this sector partner with you to help you navigate that, making sure that you're getting the benefit of all of the upside in terms of government incentives, but also making sure that then that weaves as part of your broader skills and learning agenda. What is also clear is there are not one or two cookie cutter solutions that you can pick off the shelf. Bespoke solutions are required rather than a whole range of products or pick and mix. What is important is that you what clients are saying is they want to develop solutions that integrate with their existing skills agenda. So therefore, that requires some thought and some adaptation of how training programs, skills acquisition programs are delivered within your organizations. And that's a theme I'll come back to a little later in the presentation. What is clear from all of you is that the needs of you and your learners will continue to evolve over time, and digitization is a key theme. And but action is required today. We can no longer wait. We can no longer talk about that's going to happen into the future. So adapting today, giving those key skills to the whole of the workforce immediately, and therefore, most of you who we've spoken to are looking for ways to adapt and to cope with that situation. Innovation and creativity in the learning offer, as I've said there, it needs to create a unique and compelling employment proposition. Through innovation and creativity in the way that skills are delivered, organisations are seeing the opportunity to create a competitive advantage, and therefore clearly, with the end of the furlough scheme, now has, what is clear, there's no time like now to attract real talent into your organisations. So now is the time to take that opportunity. And like hot sectors in which I've operated in the past, whether it be hospitality, this is a sector that needs talent within the marketplace, and therefore in terms of creating real skills opportunities within the sector will create a real pull for new people into the sector. Now, nearly half of the UK population is in sort of what we would call the sort of white collar sector, which is in contrast to the transportation and storage sectors, which only have about 10% of the workforce from working home. And whilst there is this pull to remote working, this clearly is a sector that is practical, pragmatic and hands-on. However, what I'm looking to do now is to share some thoughts, some ideas around the key skills themes that are coming out from conversations with you guys, and also some of our own thoughts from what we're seeing. And this is an existing reality. There clearly is going to be a long-term impact to the pandemic, Brexit, and also as we move towards a more virtual workforce, although that is slightly less within the sector, I know. Also, more automated operations is a reality and will drive increased efficiency, but has significant people impacts. And as we continue to look forward in terms of developing the workforce of the future, there are some key themes, and I know these are going to be continue to be explained during the day. These ideas, there's no IP on any of these ideas or thoughts, and as ever, an old leader of mine once said, you'll get 1 out of 10 for the plan, but as ever, 9 out of 10 for the execution and delivery. So hopefully you can take some of these thoughts and then integrate them into your existing plans. And this doesn't talk about the how. These are really the whats of what we're seeing when we're talking with HR leaders within the sector. So here are some of the key skills themes that we've started to see, and this is a holistic view of as a sector as a whole. So I can think it's some of the key dilemmas for you as HR leaders, primarily in the business, but also working in the sector, is how do we engage the workforce? How do we drive performance, and how do we drive sort of unique productivity? And one of the key things that we're starting to see is around learning is around how do we give our workforce the skills around self-motivation and proactive self-direction. Remote working is now the norm, and as Boris said yesterday, for the majority of people that will mean working remotely. So the capability to drive own performance, to measure own performance without that close supervision, as has been historically seen, is going to be a key part of the skills agenda. Secondly, in terms of, and I know this is a key theme that Gwen and Liggy will refer to later today, is about organisational resilience and the willingness to embrace change. Organisations are, as I've said there, faster paced, and therefore workforces will need to adapt to the changing circumstances. As I referred to, this change curve, which was traditionally a longer term process, is now happening on a daily basis. So as individuals within the sector, we're going to have to find ways to cope with that, adapt to that, and in essence thrive from that, rather than just taking that as a norm. This has only just started, and I think this is going to get faster and faster. So through whether it be sort of coping mechanisms, but also in terms of the workforce mental well-being, will become increasingly important. And I know that is something that is also going to be explored later in one of the sessions. Traditionally, a lot of organisations saw their workforce having done their learning. It got to a point where when they were less likely to want to acquire new skills and new technical capability. However, in a modern workforce and in a modern employee, the ability and willingness to learn has never been more important. And remote learning specifically will become more prevalent, and we will need to learn fast. As I said, even what we're doing today, 6 months ago, we would have never envisaged, working on a session such as this and sharing thoughts and ideas. But that ability and willingness to remote learn is going to be increasingly important. Clearly, a lot of the team prefer face-to-face. However, remote delivery can be creative, it can be fulfilling, and e-learning particularly can support the learning agenda within your organizations. So blending these things together, adapting the way that learning is delivered, brings a real opportunity. There's almost the concept of ubiquitous learning, is where the employee can learn anytime, any place, anywhere, and it needs to be weaved in into the way that people operate on a daily basis, rather than it being seen as a kind of discrete piece of activity. So something there that we're hearing. In addition to that, remote learning can be flexible, it can be cost effective, and also sort of a lot quicker in the way that it's delivered directly to the people who need it. So something that that maybe you're thinking about, maybe you're adapting, but certainly something we're hearing a lot of. Digital capability, and I've referred this, and I know that Jane and Liz are running a session later looking at sort of the digital agenda. So the time and pace that we're all working, the limited time and the pure pace that we're working at the moment, these digital capability within our organisations are an absolutely critical factor. In terms of 4 other key things that we're hearing, high quality vocational competence never goes out of fashion, and doing these basics brilliantly within the sector has never been more important. Driving, supply chain, warehouse skills, whilst they're adapting, these are critical for the continued success of the sector, and we recognise there are skills gaps and volume gaps in terms of the volume of people in the sector. And we're hearing that loud and clear. Clearly, the way into methods of delivery will need to adapt over time, but the basics will never go out of fashion. One of the interesting themes that we've heard and we see is the needs of leaders within the sector, whether at a kind of a senior level or at sort of a supervisory level. Leadership and coaching of remote teams will be driven on outcomes rather than inputs, as I've said there, and with more trust and less micromanagement. This is one of the biggest challenges within the sector, and I know that Kate is going to be exploring these themes about how do you lead teams with people that often you don't physically see anymore. At a personal level, over the last 3 months, I've only seen the people who work for me once, other than with a Zoom or a go-to screen around them. So we're all having to adapt. But how do you connect with people? How do you inspire people? How do you drive engagement of your teams on a daily basis and drive that level of productivity? So a real interesting theme, and I'll be really interested to see what Kate has to share with us later in the day. What is clear from today and from this session is that collaborative working is going to be critical for the success of the sector in the future. Delivering results in partnership, that's both within organisations and organisations in partnering together in looking at creative ways to drive both skills into the sector and driving skills acquisition within the sector. And the ability to blend different ideas, different skill sets is a key theme that we're seeing and looking at, and we are thinking of ways within our organisation about how we can support that partnership with a number of our different clients. The final point I'd make around sort of this skills requirement in the sector, as more sophisticated IT and data becomes made available through the digitisation of the sector, the critical thinking skills to understand, analyse, interpret, and then drive action is going to change. And this is something that we as HR professionals and professionals in the transport and logistics sector, we need to think about what those solutions might be. So, there are many factors that we need to be considering within the sector. And I guess at that point, you kind of say, well, that's all well and good, but, where do you go next? How do you collaborate, and what support is available to you right now? What we've got here is just you will be looking to partner, I'm sure, with other organisations within the sector or with businesses like ourselves to help you navigate through the bumpy road ahead. And I thought it'd be useful for me just to outline to you what you should expect and what you should be demanding of a partner within the sector. Firstly is what I've said there is in terms of proactivity in driving learning conversations and learning solutions. You know, what is undoubted is that the needs of the sector are common, but the needs of your individual organisations will be different, and therefore need to be adapted, moulded to your specific organisation and culture. So you should expect your provider in the sector to be coming to you with solutions, listening to what the challenges are, but they're coming back with some bespoke solutions that will give you a competitive advantage. I would encourage you to work with and talk to providers within the sector and encourage them to be more solution-led than product-led. The funded landscape is complex, as I've said a number of times, and even latterly the move to the apprenticeship levy, the move from apprenticeship frameworks to apprenticeship standards require some adaptation to the way that learning programs and the skills programs are weaved into the way that you specifically do business. But the standards do allow a greater deal of flexibility. So the important thing that you do is to outline what you need and then work with your partners in the sector to come up with some potential solutions. And as I've said there, you will require some support in navigating the funding landscape, even if you have worked in this sector for a while and understand apprenticeships, understand AEB. It's a constant evolving marketplace. And even now, you know, and I'll talk about a couple of changes shortly, you know, the marketplace is changing, and the government are looking at ways of driving funding to the people that need it most. That's people new to employment or people are out of employment and looking to get into sort of a new place to work. So the sector is changing very quickly. So you should be partnering with somebody who can help you navigate through that. As I've said, solutions then that focus on today plus the future rather than on specific products. I think that is undoubtedly one of the key themes of what we're seeing and what we're hearing, and what you should be expecting of a provider that you work with. And you should be working with a partner who's listening rather than sort of peddling their wares. Please share your specific circumstances, and that partner should help you navigate the next part of the journey. And as said, the needs of the industry are common, but each of you will have a unique set of circumstances. And right now, I know that Treasury have got a particular concern about youth employment and youth opportunities, and how real productive workplaces can be found for them. A couple of schemes that are worthy of note. Firstly, the Kickstart scheme. Forgive me if you're sort of fully up to speed with this. This is a scheme with a fund of $2 billion has been created to encourage employers like yourselves to find high quality work placements for young people, which does include £70 million worth of funding for sector-based work academies and 111 million quid for traineeships. As you can see there are some specific way these schemes work, around 6 months job placements, and funding is available for, as 100% of the minimum wage for 25 hours a week. And also there is further funding available for employers looking for £1,500 per job placement available for the setup costs and further administration. And as it says there, applications must be for a minimum of 30 job placements. So it might be a consideration for you to be partnering with other organisations to reach that minimum number. That refers back to the previous point I made about collaboration within the sector. Maybe organisations working together can look to create opportunity and drive talent into the sector. The final thing I'd sort of referred to is specifically about apprenticeships, and there are specific apprenticeships that are being made available for employers. £2,000 for employers for each new apprentice aged under 25, and £1,500 incentive for each new apprentice aged 25 and over. That scheme is in place right now, and that is in addition to the £1,000 incentive that already exists for the sort of 19 to 24 age bracket. So there are significant incentives for you as employers to engage with new people and apprentices within the sector. And so therefore, you know, it's very clear that skills and the skills agenda is at the forefront of the government's mind, not just for sort of the bigger challenge about young people who have been sort of displaced during this pandemic, but also giving you as employers some real incentives to drive the skills agenda within your organisations. So there are two specific schemes and examples of how navigating through the next few months in partnership with a learning or training provider could make a big difference to your organisations. So in terms of, in summary, just wanted to take a few takeaways for you from the session. I do hope our perspective resonates with you, and you've got some and have had some value and added some thoughts to what you're up to right now. But in terms of some of the key things to think about, is I would really recommend to partner with experts who can help you provide bespoke solutions to your specific organisational needs. We do have significant experience with working with employers within the sector, and it would be great to hear from you post the event if you thought that was appropriate. You know, growth and change in this sector is inexorable. You know, talent is going to be at a premium, so your learning offer will need to be distinctive. It will need to be bespoke. But there are a number of different channels, either through government funded or commercially, which can support the skills agenda. And you know, those organisations that learn better, learn faster, and adapt better will be winners within the sector, particularly in the quest for talent. The end of the furlough scheme will drive the availability of talent like no other time. So please do think about taking that opportunity and how your skills agenda within your organisation can connect with a wider marketplace and attract real talent into your business. However, there is high quality advice out there. There is support available, and on how to navigate through all of these challenges, specifically around government funding, the challenge is to navigate it, and there are experts out there in the marketplace like us who can support you through that journey. So that's all for me. I think at this point I hand back to Ruth, who will take back control of the morning. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some of our thoughts with you.
Thank you. Yeah, we've got it. I think I'm back in control. Thank you for that, Paul. That was really fantastic. We have got some questions, but I'm just going to say you've lined up today's sessions perfectly. You've talked about them throughout. I think you've given a really good overview into the sector in terms of obviously the learning and development challenges that we've been facing, we're going to be facing, and some kind of tangible takeaways that people can use. Obviously, they can contact System Group if they need any more advice, or but yeah, so you've led on nicely. Obviously, some of the things you've discussed around remote working that Kate's going to cover off later on in her session, talking about embracing change and the constant need for change, which we've got Callie speaking about, resilience from Gwen, or organisational resilience from Gwen, and then personal resilience and wellbeing from Liggy. And the next session of today, obviously, digitalisation with Jane and Liz from the Open University. So thank you. You introduced all those sessions quite nicely for me. So we've got a question from Alex at the DWP. So he has said, what about transferable skills? We're seeing many organisations unfortunately making redundancies, 158,000 in the last 3 months alone. Now is a great time to promote a career in logistics and attract new skills. The System Group and other training organisations recognise that.
We absolutely recognise that, and I guess that was, I guess, one of the key themes around the end of the furlough scheme. It's never been more important. We've got, you know, there are unfortunately many people who are out there looking in the to join, you know, to find somewhere to work, and you know, I recognise that, having had significant experience in the hospitality sector, also having worked with some other organisations within the care primarily and retail sectors, I understand there are significant transferable skills. You know, the skill set we talked about throughout the whole theme of the day are not specific to this sector. This is a sector in fast forward, no doubt. So therefore, bringing high quality talent into the sector, people who don't have logistics expertise. Personally, I don't. You know, I'm new to the sector. I'm learning fast. However, there are a lot of common needs here, as within other organisations. So I can completely support the question. There are, you know, we need to be looking to bring a new talent in from outside the sector.
Yeah, it's something I talk about quite a bit as well, Paul. Obviously, our competitors in terms of who we employ aren't necessarily the transport company down the road. It's, you know, it could be someone that's working in Tesco or working at McDonald's. You know, we need to make sure that when we're doing our recruitment strategies and we're looking at our people strategies, that we're thinking outside of just our sector and talking that language, don't we? I think we can look. I mean, it's a horrible situation for everyone to be in with all of the redundancies and things, but obviously the unemployment, as you say, in the end of furlough does present an opportunity to maybe address some of our own skills gaps because of that availability of talent. Yeah, indeed. Perfect. And then there's obviously, so we've talked a little bit in the session around obviously attracting new talent, but obviously something you've kind of struck on slightly was around that retention piece as well.
Yes.
And your existing workforce and upskilling them, and when I talk in my session later, I talk a little bit about career opportunities within businesses not necessarily being clearly communicated. They do a lot to promote it outside but not too much inside. Is that something you find a lot?
Yeah, a lot of the organisations we're talking to, you know, it isn't just purely about the recruitment agenda. I think what is important is the million-dollar question for any HR professional is about employee engagement. How do we engage our existing workforce? You know, we've got a lot of long-standing individuals who've worked within the sector, but they're going to have to continue to adapt and change. So it's not just people joining the sector, where there is a steep learning curve, but there is also those existing individuals. For most of the organisations and clients that we're currently partnering with, they are, you know, a key part of their agenda is how do we upskill our existing workforce flexibly, adaptably. I think the big challenge is availability. This is a sector on fast forward. They're extremely busy, and therefore, you know, the demands, whether it be online retail or sort of just pure logistics, moving goods and services around the country, availability of learners is a challenge. And I think in terms of using technology to deliver training in a more creative way is going to become increasingly important. And is it going to become a necessity? You know, the very nature of apprenticeships is there is some off-job time, but off-job time does not mean that they can't be productive at the same time. This is about coaching, supporting, and driving productivity. So I think there has to be a kind of change of paradigm about, you know, the opportunities that not just apprenticeships but other parts of skills acquisition can deliver, because unless the sector makes that leap forward and says we've got to upskill our existing workforce, then, you know, then that is going to, from my perspective, inhibit the ability for the sector to evolve and change and cope with the opportunity that presents itself right now.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. I was going to ask, actually, we talked about white collar, blue collar workforce, and I know Jane and Liz are going to cover off digitalisation. With your experience in care and retail, you'll have probably come across this as well, but something we experience in the transport and logistics sector in terms of trying to get yourself digitally ready, is that a lot of the people that work for us, they don't even have an email address. You know, they don't have an inbox where they can receive corporate communications, where they can log on and do some of the the kind of training that we refer to, like e-learning and whatever. Do you think that's something that needs to be addressed by the sector?
Yeah, well, I think it is, and the availability of technology, that's one of the barriers we face working with a number of clients, is that a number of the learners don't have access to technology. And, we are working with them in a creative way to create that opportunity. The days of, most of our teams will have access to one of these, and, smartphones are ubiquitous. So therefore, how can we, and a lot of the learning platforms now can be accessed via telephones. It can be accessed also by tablets, and I think there are creative ways working with a provider. You can look at creating learning hubs within large warehouse environments to make sure that every one of those individuals does have access to learning, because the risk is for the whole of the sector that it becomes a 2 or 3 tier system. And I think what is absolutely critical, the people that need that learning most are the ones that don't necessarily have access. So there are creative ways, partnering with an organisation like ours, you can find solutions to some of those challenges.
Lovely. And this is kind of final question, I think, now, and then I'll let you have a cup of tea.
No problem.
It was around when you talked about scalability, and then I've kind of brought it back to kind of the apprenticeship space. When I speak to organisations within the sector, SMEs, there's small organisations, I think, sometimes struggle to know how they could kind of recruit an apprentice, given quite often these are people that are running a very small business. They don't have much capacity, resource, profit margins are tight. Have you got any kind of advice or guidance on how smaller organisations can get apprenticeships, and be able to kind of give them the support that they need?
Look, it will come back to, of course, talking to people who have got the ability to deliver that. I think it's, the availability of apprenticeships within the sort of the SME space has never been more important. A lot is talked about the apprenticeship levy, but the backflow from the levy is sort of now going to the world of non-levy, and those opportunities are there for learners within that space as well. So therefore, my advice to any organisation in that position is to partner with a provider, a reputable provider, who will be able to access funds for learners who work for SME, and with all of their learning, they can create, bespoke solutions for providers in that space as well. Essentially, the skill is to weave existing learning with an apprenticeship program, so it feels like a seamless program. A lot of smaller organisations, I understand, don't have that. But working with across a range of different providers, from the large to the small, we are able to come up with solutions for the smaller organisation as well. So my advice: pick up the phone and speak to somebody like us who can then help you navigate some of those challenges.
Fabulous, thank you. Yeah, it's something. It's an issue that I quite often say, oh well, we couldn't do it. We don't know how to do it. We don't know where to start. So they could get in touch with you if they want to find out more.
Absolutely, and we'll be delighted to hear from them. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so that is the end of session 1 for today. Thank you, Paul. Thank you again to System Group for supporting us with this today's conference. Hopefully we'll see you on some of the other sessions today, as I think you're quite keen to hear what they've got to say.
Absolutely, I am. Yeah.
Lovely. And for everybody else who's listening, at 10:30 we have Liz Hanway and Jane Dickinson from the Open University, who are going to be talking about plugging that digital skills gap. So hopefully you can kind of click into your brochure and access the webinar through that. I'll see you all at 10:30. Thanks very much.